live. You know what I mean? Crazy. I see the stream live on X, but YouTube isn't playing. That is so weird. All right. Well, I'm going to keep rolling. Gang, which I knew what to do over here. Yeah, I don't want to stop it because if I stop it, it's going to end up going, unfortunately, down on me, and then I won't be able to then re-going over there. What an absolute bummer. All right, so let's keep going over here. I'm like, what's actually going? Oh, boom! It just popped over. All of a sudden, like 100 people dropped in the room. So hopefully, let's see. Is it working on YouTube for you guys now? Yeah, there we go. Now it's working on YouTube. Like all of a sudden, 100 people popped in the room. StreamYard, that's exciting. It's love. You got to love technology. And so before I pop over, for those of you who didn't listen, there we go. Boom, 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 boom. Now YouTube is back. Thank you. I appreciate it. So for those of you guys that haven't watched this over the past 6 minutes, really quick, the 5 areas that are seeing a massive white hot area, which is Kissimmee, 34746. That's like the downtown west area. It's Longwood, Oviedo, Winter Garden, and then the area of Winter Park where it's 789, meaning like it's like the less expensive area of Winter Park. Those are the areas that are kind of white hot. But let's talk more about like what's actually maybe the slowest. And this is interesting to me. Like, which are the slowest areas of town? And according to all of the data, it's 33. Let's see. Actually, I have to look up where 33844 actually even is. Yaz Gibbs told me that we're back on YouTube. So now I feel really good about it. Haines City. Yeah, that makes total sense. So 33844 has the most amount of homes selling. It's actually 33 homes over the past month that have sold. It took longer than 100 days. And so Haines City, we talk about these areas where as affordability gets affected, people start pushing out. But then as affordability starts, less buyers in the area, sellers get a little bit more frantic to sell. You start seeing some of those more outlying areas start contracting, and people going towards the better school areas, the better where they originally maybe wanted to buy. And so we're starting to see that based on those 5 areas that I talked about. So 33844 is seeing the biggest. The second biggest in terms of overall days on market starting to climb is 34747, which is Kissimmee, Florida. And that's like Celebration, Reunion, Windsor at West Side. It's a bunch of like the short-term area plus the second home area parts of Kissimmee, which again makes sense to me, where you have people that are not living there full time. I love Celebration. I love Reunion. There's some great areas. But when people have to make a decision on, do I want to keep my second home or do I want to just focus on my primary? You start seeing days on market start to climb and more of those things where you see more opportunities. And so again, the top 2 based on the data would say that Haines City and Celebration /34747 have the most opportunity for buyers right now. Third one is 34759. Which again, I got to look this. Some of these I know off the top of my head. I don't know every zip code in Florida. There's like hundreds. So hold on. 347. Oh, that's another area of Kissimmee actually that's seeing some sort of slowdown. And then what's weird to me is that 34787, which again we talked about is one of the fastest moving, is also one of the slowest moving. And so it's Haines City, Celebration, Reunion, Kissimmee, Winter Garden, and then last up here is Winter Haven, which again makes total sense to me in regards to overall slowdown, in regards to just overall inventory. Now, here's the thing like about Winter Haven. It's very similar to Haines City, where you had a great up and coming area where people could get in the 300s, maybe low 400s, a brand new house. And then you started to see things start to slow down as demand slowed down. So why is it that of the 5 lists, though, this is crazy to me, of the 5 lists, you had Winter Garden in both the top 5 fastest with the most amount of homes selling under 10 days, and then the slowest with the amount that are sitting for over 100 days. That's the only city or the only zip code that crosses both paths. When I think about that, it makes sense. You have a lot of new construction in Winter Garden. And so you have a lot of builders now offering incentives with lower rates and all these other kind of things to incentivize buyers to move in. And then you've got sellers that are like, hey, we want to move out and move laterally and those sort of things in order to move product. And so, yeah, it's interesting. That's how hyper local real estate is. And it's one of the things my team and we talk about all the time, which is like, you can look at the national overall market of like what's going on. But frankly, until you start drilling down to the neighborhood level, to the zip code level, you don't really understand what's going on. It's kind of interesting to me. All right, let's pop over here. I'm excited to chat with you guys. Again, you are my favorite people to hang out with. Visual CQ says, hey, glad YouTube loaded. Yeah, that's the weirdest thing. I mean, I've used this StreamYard for 3 years now. And here we are. My buddy Chase checked in and said, you're good. I appreciate it. Yeah, it says you're good. So very, very cool. Daniel says, I see the stream live on X, but YouTube wasn't playing before. How many of you guys are watching on X? Let me know down below. I just started streaming there over the past maybe 2 or 3 months as that whole platform has started to have a bit of resurgence. So it's cool to see that so many of you guys are watching over there. Connie says she's checking in from Four Corners, Florida, the Cahove neighborhood over there. Big Orange is checking in from the Oasis, Del Webb Oasis, on market big time. They continue to reduce. Fallon's checking in from Horizon West. I appreciate you guys hanging out. And then last one, we got somebody checking in from Sunbridge. We got a new listing going there, actually going live. Let's talk about like what's going on with interest rates, because okay, we've got these areas that are selling very quickly and other ones that are selling way slow. But the biggest thing is like supply and demand, right? And a lot of that comes down to both affordability with what people can afford, and it comes down to interest rates, number one over here. So let's talk about that. So this is over the past 24 hours. We had new rates come out, and 30-year fixed rate for all of America is 6.83%, which is under 7, which is great. It really needs to be in the low 5s to make it affordable for the average American or the average household, which we're actually going to dive into a fantastic article next on that. The 20-year fixed rate is a little bit lower. 15-year fixed rate is definitely lower, 6.25. And then you start getting into ARMs. So you've got people that people ask us all the time, like, what does an ARM actually mean? So it means you're locked into your interest rate for 5 to 10 years. And then after that, it will fluctuate based on whatever the prevailing rate is. It could go up, it could go down. And so how do you know? Should I pick a 15-year rate, a 30-year rate? Well, those are typically fixed for the entire length of the loan. But if you want to go and kind of gamble and say, hey, listen, I'm willing to take a 5-1 ARM at 6.3% and hope that in the next 5 years that rates are going to come down. Heck, I'm going to save a 0.5 point by choosing this option. My monthly payment goes lower and all of those sort of things. And so it's just this conversation that you want to have with our lender partners. It was pouring rain out there, like absolutely pouring. Chase, who was checking in earlier, he saw me running down the street and I was just absolutely drenched. So I got my Matic Mortgage shirt on. It's our mortgage partner. Trying to dry off a little bit here, but we can help you with these to kind of give you an idea of what overall is happening. Let's talk a little about what's going on in the overall market. And then there's this, I promise, this article that I want to share with you guys called Follow the Money by the Orlando Business Journal. It's super good. But let's talk about what's going on specifically in the single family market range. I'm actually going to get rid of myself altogether. So this is interesting. I usually save this chart for the end of our live streams, but I think it's interesting because it talks about the overall months of inventory. It talks about the average sales price, and then how much on average for all of Central Florida are people getting off. If you list your house for sale, how much are you actually getting off on average? And I think that's an interesting kind of statistic. So on average, it's taking people about 4 months to sell your house. And let me know down below, if the last time you sold your house, did it take 24 hours? Did it take 24 days? Did it take 24 months? Because things have definitely changed. And to see in months of inventory, roughly 4 months is kind of interesting. So average sales price overall is $527, which is still way up year over year. But median price also up. It was like $410 this time last year. Now it's $430. And again, this is single family homes. This isn't condos, it's not townhomes, villas, it's specifically standalone single family properties, is 430 on the median. And so we've got people on average taking about 38 days to get a contract accepted, and then another 30 or so to get something closed, and then average combined days. So on average, it's taking about 2 months to sell your house. Does that seem low or does that seem high to you? Kind of interesting. Joe says it took 4 days to sell his house in New Jersey. Margie's checking in from Lake Nona. What's going on? Good to see you. Let's see. Daniel says, hey, I think it was about an hour ago, DeSantis declared a state of emergency on the upcoming tropical storm within the next week. That's true. That is true. Tim says, hey, boom shakalaka on YouTube. Thank you, buddy. Good to see you. Let's see. Pouring rain. So many people. Jose says, Matic Mortgage product placement. Yeah, of course. I co-own this mortgage company. I don't run it. I just invested in the company, and we believe in the owners and the co-founders. They're absolutely fantastic. Chris says, hey, maybe Ken prefers Xstream, especially since YouTube is not always reliable. Maybe. You never know. Let's see. Pump Chase has got a setup with OBS, no more StreamYard. Yeah, man, I get you. I get you, buddy. Jose says, I've got my eyes on 32835, the Turkey Lake area. What do I think of this area? Listen, I think that it's fantastic. That's the Metro West area, and you're right adjacent to Dr. Phillips. So if you like all of the stuff going on there, but you don't want to pay the Dr. Phillips prices, the 32836 or the 32819, heck yeah, it's a great area. Now, there's going to be obviously a differentiation in schools and a bunch of other things over there that you'll want to pay attention to. But overall, Metro West was like the boom, the huge area in like the late 80s, 90s in Orlando. It was like the spot. It was the Horizon West of the 90s, I would say. And then it started to kind of like, people started looking elsewhere. And so you have to pay attention to that sort of thing, like why that might be. And we can help you zone in there if that's something that's important to you. Let's see. Zach says, hey, watching from Akron, Ohio. I worked with Lindsay to get a place in Davenport. Well, welcome to Orlando. That's so cool. Kyle says, my home is 62 days on the market. So happy I got a steal in Hunters Creek. So close to Disney. Oh man, I love all of my hunter. We got like the Hunters Creek Mafia watching over here, and I don't hate it. I actually kind of love it. All right, there's one story that I want to get into before we get into some theme park stuff tonight, which I love some theme park stuff. If you couldn't tell, we've got some theme park stuff. We're big fans over here. But Orlando Business Journal came out with an article today, which I thought was pretty great. It's called Follow the Money. It says how Central Florida's population, wealth, and home value growth reshaped a region. And so it goes into this whole idea of like, so tourists and locals fill the seat of a sweltering 91-degree St. Cloud heat. George Van Horn, herpetologist, owner of Reptile World, and it goes into kind of like the story of his reptile world. I've not been, but Chase, we got to put it down because look at all of these little things behind this guy. Those are probably all snakes and random reptiles behind him. But it's interesting. So they start talking about him, and then they start talking about what's going on over the past few years. They say, listen, there's been a surge of people coming from New York and New Jersey and internationally. And we've actually become one of the fastest growing metros, according to the US Census Bureau. And so why you moved here might be kind of an interesting reason why that might be. Looking at overall population growth. And again, this is according to the Orlando Business Journal from 2017 to 2022, among the largest population growth was St. Cloud at 74%. Winter Garden, which we just talked about, at 50.97%, Kissimmee at 50.2%, Orlando at 45%, and St. Cloud, again, different zip code, but almost 30%. Do those areas surprise you at all? Like, I mean, if we've talked about this on our channel, and one of the things I do appreciate is development and new things going on. And I would love to see more like high rises and mid rises and get some more density instead of just all of the sprawl. And yet it's what we got here is sprawl. And so I talk about it all the time. But if you look at what's going on, so St. Cloud, Winter Garden, Kissimmee, and 32832, that's Orlando. That's kind of like over by Lake Nona adjacent. So it's like Eagle Creek is a really great area over 32832. There's a new Pulte neighborhood going in over there. So lots of stuff, population growth. And then you start looking at, let's see, some of the other areas that had like housing value boom. So since in the same time from 2017 to 2022, Cocoa, this is wild. Cocoa saw an almost 110% home value growth between the same time. Orlando 32805 saw 81. Melbourne Beach saw 74. Daytona Beach saw 72. And I don't even know where Mims is, not our service area, but saw 72% overall increased. Fastest homegrown values in Central Florida. This is interesting. Let me know if you're in Central Florida. Do you count the coast as Central Florida? Because I never have. Like it's just far enough away. It's a different MLS. It's like an hour from us or so. And I don't know that I count it. Like I count the hour around Orlando as Central Florida, but I could be crazy. I don't know. That's just what they tell me. All right. So wealth growth and dollar stores. I thought this was kind of an interesting dichotomy between like millionaires and then also dollar stores, apparently. So if you look at while Orlando has a lower median wage and the neighboring Tampa and Miami, the region saw compensation increase during the pandemic and the number of people migrating to Florida with wealth tick up. In Florida, the number of millionaires increased 18,000 between 2020 rather and 2021. So big number, big jump overall. And so let's talk about the average areas with the biggest income increases in all of Central Florida. Again, this is like a really well done study by the Orlando Business Journal. So you had DeLand jump up 69%. It went from 39,000 to 67,000. And this is overall household income. So this isn't just single earner. This is usually two people combined. You've got DeLand went from 39,000 to 67,000. Orlando 32820 went up 67% from 63 to 105. You had some other areas in Orlando went from 53 to 88. Daytona Beach went from 24. That's like 24 seems like, is that a bunch of college kids working there or like maybe second home in? I don't know. It's 24,000 to 40. And then the one we talked about a lot today, 34787, which is Winter Garden, went up 65% from $65,000 per household to 108 per household. So let me know down below in the comment section, is this surprising to you in regards to what's going on with income and areas and all of those sort of things? Like, because I think I nerd out on this stuff, but like as somebody watching this back or watching live, let me know down below, what do you believe in regards to just some of this data that you're hearing overall? JJ says, what's up, JJ? Good to see you, my friend. No, not absolutely not. The only four surrounding areas, County, Polk is left out. Yeah, Polk, I agree. So for me, it's like Orange, Osceola, Polk, Lake, Seminole. Those five areas to me are Central Florida. Hoyen says, Family and Venture says, finally took a trip to Island Village in celebration, kind of like Celebration 2.0. It's fantastic. I agree. I mean, and if you haven't driven all the way back into Island Village, they're building the road for like Island Village 2.0. So the second phase of Island Village, it's going to be 3 big phases when it's finished. And all of those roads are finally going in. I hear pre-sales are going to go on sometime later this year, if that's something that you're interested with, Mattamy. D says, hey, I just closed on a house last month with Pulte in St. Cloud, and we recently found out that a new high school is being built a few blocks away. Is that good or bad? That's fantastic. I mean, so much of St. Cloud, whether you're in Sunbridge or some other areas, Sunbridge has a new K-8 going in, and that's just great for the neighborhood. Now, all of a sudden, you don't have to send your kids on a bus for 45 minutes. And so if you're a high school, you said you're on a high school, but it's a few blocks away, that's even better, in my opinion. I live a mile and a half away from a new high school, and it's great. People, in terms of resale value anyways, love it. Now at 7:30 in the morning when the buses are rolling, I'm usually up already because I'm sending a high schooler off and into high school world. But I think it's a good thing overall. Let's see. Chris says, "Hey, listen, I moved to Orlando from NS Canada, and I just bought a house in Kissimmee area, Point Siena area. I was told that it's a one way in, one way out. Is there plan for a new road? There is. It's just going to be some time. I would probably guess 3 to 5 years before you start getting some additional roads. But yeah, it feels as though it's like a land in the middle of a swamp with one way in and one out of Orange County and Osceola County. And so you're buying into the area long term. It's not a bad thing, right? You're saving a lot of money, but you're going to be waiting in traffic. And so getting okay with that should be your outset. What's up, Winston? It says glad you're back on. Man, I appreciate it, my friend. This is a great question from a Michigan fan, Go Blue. Lucas says, "Hey, if you're a position buyer, 20% down available, no current home, and good credit, is now the time to buy or continue to wait out interest rates?" So listen, man, I feel like there's a lot of it depends on where you're at, right? So if you're looking at new construction right now, many builders will buy down your rate, like so right now it's 6.8%. They might buy you down into the fives, if not even the fours, at least for the 2 years, the first 2 years of you owning the house. And so I like to buy when everybody else is scared. So right now I'm looking for opportunity. I'm like, hey, where is there opportunity where average days on market starts to climb? And those sellers are getting a little bit desperate to where they want to start seeing me either lower the price or pay for my closing costs or buy down my rate, right? It's people are always like, oh my gosh, the market's going to crash. Well, great. That's when you buy. And so for me, that's kind of right now. Like I don't know that we're having a crash in some areas. Like we said, things are still going up. In other areas, things are flat. And then in some areas, things are down. And so you just have to decide where you want to buy and like what you're after. And so if you're in one of those areas where you want to pick up an opportunity, those exist. So yeah, I don't push home ownership on everybody. Like 30% of Orlando rents, and that's fine. And then 65% of them own, and that's cool too. And we help people all along the way. Travis Guillen says, "What's up, dude? I've got a listing that just hit 100 days in Haines City. I couldn't agree more with these these numbers more face palm." Yasmin says, compared to the UK, it's fast. Average timeline is 6 months. That's one of the things that we talk about all the time. Closing here, we have a lot of people. This is interesting. When I first moved here, like 8 years ago, there were a couple areas of Orlando where like there were something like 6 or 7 thousand people that owned a home as a second home that lived in the UK, and we would talk to those people all the time. And it was like we would say, "Hey, we sold your house in 2 weeks, and we're closing in 30 days," and they were always blown away how fast that actually was. Like just how fast things go, man or gal. Joe says, "Hey, I'm so glad Liz sold our place in Reunion." Yeah, Liz is awesome. We got a super cool team. Super grateful. Lanique says, "Would I consider servicing Volusia County? If I had a great agent that I was willing to work with and partner with, we get a lot of bleed over work from Tampa and Lakeland and then Volusia County that we just don't service as a real estate company. I'd love to work with some of those people, but it's just as of right now, if we can't service them at the highest level, then we choose not to." All right, so hopefully somebody from my team is listening so that you can help me out with this. But I want to watch this new spot from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, the Ministry of Magic, because frankly, it's the one that made me smile the most and something I'm so excited about. And so if you're into theme parks, if you're excited for Epic Universe, and if you're moving to Orlando, you probably are. Oh, great. Then I'm excited about this. So here we go. Oh, they said no audio. Chase, we got to figure this out, man, because it's like so darn good. Darn it. All right, we'll drop the link down below. But one of the things that came out over the past week was the Ministry of Magic over at Epic Universe. It was the last land that was coming out. And the thing that I was most nervous about was that it would be all Fantastic Beasts, because I don't know if it's my age or if it's just I love the original Harry Potter movies, but Fantastic Beasts it just wasn't for me. And so when I originally saw everything that was coming out, I was a little like, I don't know. But it's going to be a mix of Fantastic Beasts and Harry Potter, and mixed over there. You've got 1920s Muggle Paris, and then you also have you've got the Ministry of Magic that you go through the whole Green Flames with the Flu Network. I'm so stoked for what's coming on over into theme parks is in general, but specifically for Epic Universe. And so let me know. I'm kind of curious in the comments. Let me know, like, have you visited the theme parks lately? Because it is interesting when you go in. I feel like 60 or 70% of the time it's fairly empty. And you've got those one-off days where it's just packed like normal. But have you visited lately? Or are maybe, for those of you watching from afar, are you waiting until something like Epic opens before you visit us next year? Because I am curious if that's having any sort of sway on people considering. Let's see. Winston says, hey, I went to Universal for the first time last weekend. Now I'm totally wrapped up in what's coming into the universe. It's wild. I think they're putting on an absolute clinic for what's going on and coming to Universal from a marketing perspective, from an investment standpoint. They're doing a really good job. Jeff says, hey, we moved to the Villages from Traverse City. What's up, Michigan? I'm surprised about the different incomes, as I would thought that it would have been a lot higher. Excited to see some of the different areas. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the Villages overall, obviously very retirement friendly. But I'm kind of curious, like overall income levels of those areas would be interesting to actually look up. Winter Park still seems to be selling quickly. It does. I mean, overall, especially like I mentioned, the Aloma area is still crushing. And then here's the other interesting thing. So going back to this over here, I'll show you. So this whole piece, so homes over $1 million, it says inventory pricing is 8 months. So there's a lot of homes for sale over $1 million right now. Average days to contract is 106. So it takes roughly 3 months to sell your house if it's over $1 million. That being said, like, these crazy records are being set in Winter Park, in Golden Oak, in Windermere. There's just insane pricing. We're actually going to be doing a crazy video I'm excited to share with you guys in a little bit. It's going to be some very, very expensive real estate. So I'm excited to see it myself. Yeah, it says, I'm getting the $200 unlimited resident pass that's valid until December. Ooh, that's actually really good. I hadn't heard that. Who's going to Halloween Horror Nights, by the way? Our whole team, we've got like 45 people on our team now. I think 20 of us are going to be going to Halloween Horror Nights on the VIP ticket. Let's see. Breezy says, here's a good real estate question. What are my thoughts on Metro West? I talked about it a little bit earlier. I think it's a great area in terms of proximity to Dr. Phillips. I think you're going to save about 15 to maybe 20% in the Metro West area. Again, I think in the 90s, it was like the place to be. And then now you've got a lot of older inventory. You've got homes that need roofs, windows, kitchens, HVAC, a lot of stuff like that. And so it's lost a little bit of its luster. But that being said, the proximity is actually pretty great. We're pass holders at Disney and SeaWorld. Disney is not as busy. I agree. We're there often, and it just seems to be a little chill. Martin says, what's up, neighbor? Horizon West, good to see you. Oh, this is a great question. Heck yeah, let's go. All right. So JK says, hey, do we have any updates on the JW Marriott residences in downtown Orlando? We have actually some connections to the people that are doing the development. And from what I hear, it sounds as though they are looking to do some pre-sales before they can actually go vertical. Now, there's a bunch of stuff going on downtown. They've got like the Travel and Leisure building. You've got the new Orlando Magic facility. You've got all the stuff going on at Church Street and beyond. That stuff is all coming. And then you've got the JW Marriott residences, which were going to be like condos that I'm just stoked about. But the way that the banking world is working right now, they're just not willing to invest some of the money until they start doing more pre-sales. And so it'll be interesting to see whether it's us or somebody else helping them how fast they can get some of those pre-sales before the bank allows them to go vertical. That's one of the biggest thing that we're waiting on. Chris says, "Hey, thanks for the awesome content. Been following you for a couple of years. Retiring then from the Army next year, and currently working with Bree Tucker on relocating to Claremont during the spring of 2025." Well, Chris, thank you for your service and thank you for being a client. We are super stoked to help you out. Chase says, "Yeah, I could turn it up on the board." No, man, it was up on the board. I don't know what's going on. Let's see. Last thing here. Are houses in Winter Park accepting offers on less than listed, or is that rare? We have $470,000 in cash and looking at $500,000 houses. Are houses on the market for 20 days plus? Is that normal? That's a great question. So as days go on, usually I would say the great majority of sellers start getting a little bit anxious. And so depending on the price point, right? We have to look at the overall zip code and say, if a home's listed at 500,000 and on average days on market are 30, well, then they're probably not getting super nervous until you start getting over 30 days on market, if that makes sense. Now, if you're in an area where 500,000 and everything's selling within 2 weeks and you start getting to 20, 30, 40 days, well, those sellers should be getting nervous because they're like, hey, a lot of the buyers have now seen our home in the inventory and have said no. And so that's your opportunity, paying $470,000 down to say, hey, can I go in at 5 to 10% off and get a deal? And those are happening all the time right now. I mean, again, going back to this form that I just freaking love, the data that we get to put out is just so great. Final list to sales price is about 97%. But if a home has been on the market before, it's about 6% off. And so that's probably pretty much on average for all single family homes in Orlando. Connie, great question. She says, "Hey, how safe do I think of wood frame construction with flake board as opposed to cinder block?" I don't know what flake board is, but wood frame construction I can talk to. So it's interesting. I talked to somebody from James Hardy. Their company came out to our office and did a presentation. And they're like, hey, listen, a lot of builders are leaning towards building more with frame than block. And their mindset, anyways, and this is from them, this isn't for me yet. They say, hey, listen, we are building frame homes that are actually more energy efficient than block homes because they can do more insulation, they can do thicker walls and some other stuff like that. That's the way that they look at it. I think the only reason why people would be against frame homes is going to be hurricanes and termites. And so termites, we all get typically on new construction anyways, you get a termite bond where they protect your home value up to $1 million of replacement. And they come out and do bait stations. It's like $300 to $500 a year. It's really not that big of a deal. Hurricanes, right? Like we're in Orlando, we're pretty deep in. And so I'm not personally super worried about my home blowing over because it's wood frame versus block. Heck, they're building apartment buildings that are 3 and 4 stories high out of frame right now, which when I first saw that, I was like, that seems absolutely ridiculous. And yet they are. And so I'm seeing a lot more frame construction than block construction. And I think that the way that they're doing it right now does make sense as long as you got your termite bond right and that you are taking advantage, adding that extra insulation so that you can take advantage of the R value and hopefully keep your home a little bit cooler and cheaper to operate. I hope that helps. D. Hawkins says, am I excited for a new commissioner in District 1? Dang, I've been interviewing a lot of politicians lately. And so on our sister channel, the Orlando Reel, you're going to start seeing that more often. I'm not choosing a side. I really am not. I think that politics is important, though. You need to hear from both sides and then just hear about how does this affect Orlando. I think it's so easy to get fringe and kind of all over the place. But I've interviewed a lot of politicians, not unfortunately the new commissioner in District 1. But I'll look it up after the show tonight. That's for sure. Missy says, hey, what about a rental where you would buy one if you're going to buy a rental right now? Ooh, so where would I buy an investment property? I think is what you're saying. Maybe. Yeah. Where you're saying, where would I buy an investment property? So I have to like lean into where do I believe in the future and where I think rents are fairly stable, which is why like I believe in Haines City and Winter Park for the long haul, but I think those are just good investments for people to buy something affordable. I don't know that if I believe in the immediate increase in overall rents right now. I think you got to stick with some of the downtown areas or Winter Park or Lake Nona. Maybe like a Maitland, like outskirts. So if you don't want to spend Winter Park money, but you want to be close by, like Longwood, Lake Mary, all of those established areas where you don't have a lot of downward pressure because of new construction. Those are the areas that I would definitely be investing in right now. So for us, like we constantly look at all of our listings when we meet with a seller and we say, what would I buy this house for? Like if I was going to be an investor, because whether I buy it or not, I want to start thinking of the ideal buyer in my mind. And those areas that I just suggested are some of the best. Mm. All right. I think those are the major questions. We've been going for about 41 minutes tonight. I've got some other ones I know that I did miss, but if I missed you, reach out at theorlandoreal.com/YouTube and we will answer your specific questions. If you're looking to sell or buy a house, I mean, my team and I, we've had over 885-star reviews. I think we're on to something in regards to helping people sell and buy. Make sure you reach out and we can get very specific with you that maybe I can't do on a live stream in front of a bunch of people and potentially thousands that watch back on the replay. But tonight was a lot of fun. I do love these Thursday live streams. So thanks for popping in with me and spending some time asking those questions. And then make sure you keep asking questions on the replay. If you're watching this a couple days from now or a couple weeks from now, I'll do my best to reach out and or comment. But beyond that, hope you guys have an amazing weekend,